I became a better husband, a better father, a better leader, and a better creator when I realized that there are some things I needed to unlearn that I innately picked up on in my environment and in my childhood. But I also realized that there are some things I needed to unlearn that I taught myself. I needed to unlearn some habits. I needed to unlearn communication styles. I needed to unlearn certain beliefs that I was carrying into my adult life and then learn the right way of doing it. I needed to learn how to stop pointing my finger outwards at everyone else and at everything else, and instead turn that thing around and start pointing it inwards so that I can evolve in my life, so that I can grow, so that I can unlock my best life. Now, from my vantage point in this season of my life, I don't see conversations like these happening as often as I think they need to be had. And I've noticed in most of the self-help and self-discovery content I've come across, while it's very inspirational, which I think is part of the problem at times, I've yet to really connect with something that speaks to the toxic traits we need to unlearn. Just because you grew up a certain way doesn't mean that's the way you have to do it in your adult life. Just because your parents did the best job they knew how to do, and I'm learning this as a new dad myself because the hospital doesn't give you a how-to guide when it comes to this parenting thing, right? So just because your parents did the best job they knew how to do doesn't mean it's their responsibility to help you unlearn some of the things you picked up from them, right? At some point, we have to take responsibility for ourselves and say, hey, if I want to evolve in this life, if I want to grow, if I want to become a better version of myself, the best version of myself, then there are going to be some things that I have to unlearn. And then there are going to be some things that I'm going to have to learn as I continue to grow and evolve, right? So what I want to do in this conversation is I want to share with you some of the things that I had to unlearn in my life that translated to me becoming a better husband, a better father, a better leader, and a better creator. And I'm hopeful that I'm going to mention something that you can relate to, that you are also feeling in your life or that's resonating with you in your life as you continue to grow and evolve on your journey. Growing up and going through the various transitions we go through as kids and young teens and eventually adults, the mental and emotional maturity we experience, with that comes a period of time where we're trying to find our voice. And what we don't always realize or accept if we do notice it is that we pick up on and learn our language and communication styles from our parents, from our environment, from our community, the people we grew up around. And unbeknownst to us, sometimes that means we're carrying the wrong communication style into our adult life. And just because we learned it, just because it's what we picked up on, what we witnessed, that doesn't automatically make it the right thing to do. And it doesn't mean we should keep doing it. Looking at my own life, the way I would speak and respond to certain situations, that told me that there were some things I needed to unlearn. And what I used to do is I would always give the excuse that this is just how I sound when I talk, that this is just a natural tone of my voice. But what I've learned over the years is that although I may speak this way, that doesn't necessarily make it right. And I've come to realize that effective communication speaks in other languages. As an example, in order for Alexis and I to have effective communication, I can't just speak however I want to. I can't just say that this is just how I sound when I talk, right? Instead, I have to speak the language that makes our communication effective. And that language that me and her speak is going to be different from the language I speak with my parents, with the language I speak with my brother, the language I speak with coworkers or friends for our communication to be effective. And what's even more interesting is that all of these different languages that I'm speaking with these various people in my life, in order to have effective communication, those languages do not resemble the communication style I used to have and thought was correct. To take this a step further, I not only had to unlearn communication styles in regards to my relationships and personal interactions, but I also had to unlearn the toxic way in which I was communicating with myself. And what we don't always realize is that the internal conversations we're having are also the result of things we picked up on in our environment, in our childhood, but they're also secretly destructive. And I say secretly because we don't really realize this until it's too late. I'll give you the perfect example. I'm a former track and field athlete. I'm a long jumper. Well, I used to long jump. And, this is something I never spoke out loud about before until now. I just realized that. But I never made it to the national stage. I never had an opportunity to long jump on the national stage. Not because I wasn't talented enough, but because of my attitude. Now, to say that I was hard on myself would be an understatement. I was extremely hard on myself. And although it still stings to have never had the opportunity to perform on the national stage, the experience of not doing that taught me how to communicate more effectively with myself. I had to learn how to be critical or how to critique myself without being destructive of myself, right? And I had to learn how to do this if I ever wanted to reach my full potential in all that I do in life. If I want to become a better version of myself, the best version of myself, if I want to unlock my best life. Now, another thing that I had to unlearn was the behavior and habits of hiding my authentic self. A few weeks ago, Alexis and I were hanging out and talking, and she asked me a question. She wanted to know how Mr. Smooth carried over from high school to college. And this was a very random conversation we were having, as we tend to do. Now, if you don't know who Mr. Smooth is, he is a persona I clung to in my teenage years and early 20s. This was a nickname I was given in high school because of the way I carried myself, the way I dressed, the way I spoke, but I digress. I answered her question by letting her know that it just kind of happened, right? There wasn't anything that I did to let my college friends know that my nickname was Mr. Smooth. People just started picking up on it, and before I knew it, the nickname I was given in high school carried along with me all 4 years of college. But as Alexis and I kept talking, she said to me that, well, you're still smooth. And then she asked me, do I ever miss it? Now, this is a question I've never really been asked before, but I told her no, because Mr. Smooth felt like a character I had to play every day. And it got to the point where I was constantly overthinking every single thing I was doing, because every single thing I did, I had to make sure it was in alignment with who Mr. Smooth was. Now, I've since let go of that persona, but I had to learn how to be more of my authentic self unapologetically, which was a process, right? This didn't happen overnight. However, the moment I started to be more of my authentic self unapologetically, I started to unlock my best life, right? Because although I speak a certain way, and to some people that may be smooth, although I carry myself a certain way, and to some people that may be smooth, I'm also goofy and silly. I like to crack jokes. I like to sing, even though I can't carry a basic note to save my life, right? I also stutter sometimes when I speak. Oftentimes my mind is racing a million miles ahead of my mouth. And if I don't slow down and breathe, then I stumble. And there have been plenty of times where Alexis and I have had conversations and I had to just stop right in the middle of talking and just say, and then start all over, right? But that's me. Those are the things that make me my authentic self. And I've had to learn how to be more of that and embrace that and be okay with that and not care if someone judges me, and not to care what other people think, and just to care about being myself. As long as I'm being me, I'm happy with that, right? So I want to encourage you, if you're hiding your authentic self, to learn how to be more of your authentic self unapologetically and to embrace who you truly are in everyday life. Now, I also want to talk to you about limiting beliefs really quick, because I've had quite a few limiting beliefs in my life. I've had limiting beliefs around content creation and me being a content creator and whether or not I can be a good content creator. I've had limiting beliefs around money and finances. I've had limiting beliefs around growing a business, turning my side hustle into a business. I've had so many limiting beliefs in my life, right? But every time I've met and achieved a goal or a milestone in my life, as an example, I grew my social media platform. I met that milestone. I paid off all of my student loan debts in 1 year, $23,000 worth in 1 year. I'm learning how to grow a business and to be a business person and think more business minded and to make money outside of the traditional avenues of a W-2 job. I'm learning all of these things. And every time I achieve a milestone in my life, I'm using that as an opportunity to unlearn a limiting belief I've had in relation to that. So if you can relate to anything I'm saying right now, I want to pass this nugget of advice over to you. If you have a limiting belief around anything at all, I want to encourage you to continue pushing forward. And every time you achieve something, every time you meet a milestone in your life, use that as an opportunity to unlearn the limiting beliefs you have. I hope this conversation resonated with you, my friend. And if it did, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to continue this conversation with you. I'd love to connect further with you about some of these ideas, specifically limiting beliefs. So go ahead and let me know down in the comments so we can continue talking. Keep growing on your journey, my friend. Keep learning. Always remember to stay true to you. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.